So much. But I'm going to try to keep it brief. What has been placed inside of you was not placed inside of you to die.
You are now listening to The Gradient Radio, an open space to converse about creativity with creatives. And I am your host, Antonio Knoxx. And today we have a special guest. Today, our guest is a multi-hyphenate woman who is the CEO of the Millennials Mom Club and a co-host on Moms Actually. Today, our guest is Morgan Taylor. Right, I need the applause.
Yes, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you kind of taking some time to come out here.
Of course.
Because I can imagine how busy this time is for you.
Yes. He asked me to come, so I arrived.
Absolutely. So for those who may not know who you are, could you introduce yourself?
So I am Morgan Taylor. As you have said previously, I am the CEO and owner or founder of the Millennial Moms Club. I am a co-owner and co-host of Moms Actually. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a creative. I am a producer. I am all of the things, which is why, that multi-hyphenate is something that I really, really take pride in, because I do not want to be just one thing. I want to keep being all the things. Of course, with some limits and boundaries, but I just don't want to box myself in. So yeah, I do all of those things. I'm an entrepreneur, of course. And, I'm going to go ahead and put writer under my name as well. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm a couple of things. Hello.
Did you see yourself being where you are as a multi-hyphenated woman when you were younger?
Yes. So I always said, not in this way though, I always said that I wanted to be a triple threat. So when I was growing up, I was really, really heavy in the arts. I was always either, the lead in the school play or, in theater or whatever. And then I was also, ballet. I did ballet for 15 years and jazz and contemporary and all those things. And then I was always singing as well. So I always saw myself on Broadway or, doing something where I was making sure that I was using all three of those talents. Like I was like, my mom did not put me in all of these things for just,
no reason.
One of them to be used. Like we're going to use all three. So I wanted to definitely be like that triple threat, but I never knew it would look like this. So while I thought I was going to be kind of like, and I mean, maybe one day I still will, but while I thought I was going to be doing something of that regard, I definitely did not see myself doing this in this way. So yeah. And then there was a time in my life where I didn't see it at all. I was like, yeah, that was just a dream. Like that was cute when I was, growing up. But now I'm an adult and reality has hit and I'm behind a desk. So yeah.
So what did you see yourself doing? Was there a specific thing that you saw yourself doing when you were younger?
Yeah. I never quite knew how I would get there, but I think I decided that I wanted to I always kind of flip-flop like how I was going to get that first start, because you got to start somewhere.
For sure.
I originally said I wanted to start in the actress type thing, but I realized it's a lot harder to break into the acting world, like with all the the union and getting all your credits and just all of this stuff to even be kind of respected as an actress or being able to just even get certain jobs. I realized that maybe that wasn't the way to go. Whereas, you can come out with a good song and it possibly go viral, and you might be able even if I was a one-hit wonder, I was like, I might be able to kind of go that route. I also found a lot of liberation in dance. So I actually had, when it was time for me to go to school, I had actually tried out to be in like the ballet department in college. And so I was like, I think this is going to be the way, is the dance thing, because then I can kind of creep into that Broadway. Maybe I audition for a dance role, but then I show that I can act too, So that was like my strategy. None of that worked. None of it happened, but that's what I thought would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I can imagine having all of these dreams. There was a time where you became a little discouraged in the process because you put so much effort. You had this vision for how your life was going to be. Mm-hmm. How did you handle?
So my detour was, it's been a twofold thing. It's a blessing for sure, because it's why I am where I am today. Literally right out of high school, I think I decided that I really, really loved a boy, and I changed my whole plan, my whole college plans, the school that I had auditioned for. Then I was like, well, no, if I go here, then I won't see him. I literally decided not to go to that school just so that I could stay home and go to, a school closer to my boyfriend at the time. So silly. But so if you are young, do not tailor your plans for a relationship. And even if you are, you got your high school sweetheart, and, there are a lot of relationships out there that, high school sweetheart that works, But if that is the case, I think that if it's meant to be, it'll be. Even if you both are going after your dreams, it'll happen. You have so much life ahead of you. So that was my quick little relationship advice. Is don't do that. But I did. I changed my whole plan, and then I got pregnant. And at 19 years old, I was staring at a pregnancy test, and it indeed said positive, which I thought, for some reason, I wasn't scared. It just, immediately I knew that my life was going to change. Immediately I knew that all of my hopes and my dreams and my plan and my strategy, it was pretty much, out the window, at least is what I thought.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just I went back to the drawing board. I decided that, my life needed to look a little bit different. And so it wasn't, of course, now, literally every day almost, I look back and I'm like, gosh, this was for a reason. You know what I'm saying? This was meant to be, because I don't think I would have the appreciation, the fire, the fervor, all of the things that I have for motherhood, that I do if I didn't get pregnant that young. I don't think that I would have wanted to really rally for a change if I didn't have all of these big, big, big dreams and then be thrown into motherhood. Mm-hmm. And so while it was something that I thought kind of my dream and my life was a little bit over in a sense, it was definitely for my good. And yeah, I think when it comes to seasons and you trying to kind of look your decisions in the face, that part gets a little tough. It gets really, really, really rough, because you recognize that, one, you could have let yourself down. You know what I'm saying? We all have the right to have dreams, and we all we're born into the world with a passion for something. We're born into the world with a purpose. Like, I mean, literally God created us with and for a purpose. Now, if we are aligned with that purpose, when it comes to what God said versus what we think we're supposed to do, that's one thing. But we literally already have it inside of us. And so to stare that disappointment in the face can be rough. But the key is not to stay there.
Yeah.
And so I think that answer, I gave a very, very long answer, but that kind of answers the question of, how do you like get over that? And it's just not to stay in that place. You have to recognize like, okay, where am I at now? This is the cards that I've been dealt or I dealt myself. And how do I move on from there?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did. It was a long process, but that's what I did.
Yeah. No, I mean, as you were telling me the story, I was thinking about that because for me, I always said that I always wanted to have like the plan A for my life.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to have like the plan B, C, or, D. Because obviously like the plan A is like, we think it's like the best.
Yeah.
We think it's the best. And I was just wondering from like your perspective, had you gone to the school, right? You probably, your whole life, your whole trajectory
different.
of your life would be vastly different. Goodness. Like you probably wouldn't even be here right now at all.
No.
You'll be somewhere completely different.
100%. I always think about that. Like, while I love my children and I'm excited that I have been able to be graced with the job of being their mom, I always think like, what would my life look like if I had gone off to school and, decided that I was going to be a dancer or whatever? My life would look so different. And it could have, I don't even want to say that, I don't want to assume that it would be great because one, dancing in general, that's a whole that's a whole risk in itself because I'm relying on my body to pretty much constantly do what it's supposed to do when it comes to being a ballet dancer. That's one. If something happens where I'm unable, to perform or whatever, then that's my job. And that's with anything, but it's your entire body that completely is that like, it's like you need an insurance policy because, if something happens, if you're injured or if you just, also that world is so harsh. I don't know that mentally I might have been able to withstand it. I'm not built like a ballerina. That was actually one of the things that when I was going to like dance academy, like my teacher would get on me so much because she would always say like, I'm, Black woman, we got a figure. I wasn't a stick. And even though I was like super skinny back then, they just make you feel like you need to be a certain like, shape and size. And I was tall. I mean, I wasn't tall. I was, I was short and petite. And so all of those things, I'm just like, who says I would have gotten the roles that I wanted to get? Like I could have been that backup, B-lister or C-lister for a long time. So yeah, I think that it's crazy. I think I also would be traveling the world. I would have never met my husband. There are so many things that would be different. Like my life would not be this for sure. And I'm glad. Like I'm happy about it for sure.
So it seems like from what I'm learning, there were decisions made, and basically based off of the decisions that were made, your life went in a different direction, but you didn't allow the decisions that you made to like hamper what you were going to like do with your life or the visions that you were starting to get. Absolutely.
I have always had a certain amount of drive, no matter if I was in, like a rough season in my life. One of the things I always used to say is I don't ever want to settle. And so what actually kind of caused me to even move into the creative space out of corporate is I went into corporate because I had to. You know what I mean? Like I was a mom. I had to provide for my child. And my child's father and I, we didn't even last past the pregnancy. So I had to do what I had to do as a single mother, as a young mom who needed to provide for their child. But after a certain point of, climbing up the ladder, because that was my thought. I was like, I'm just going to climb up the corporate ladder and I'm going to be like, the CEO of a company or the president of something, or, I just really, that was like my way of not settling in my mind. That's what I thought. I was like, well, at least I can just climb the ladder and I can still be like super successful. But I kept finding myself in these jobs that I was making great money. I was, doing all the things that corporate people do, but I was so unfulfilled. I literally remember getting like a really good job. Like I was like, oh, I landed it. Like I'm good. Like I actually might be set. Like this I probably will,
this is
get
it.
Yeah, a couple positions, I'll probably grow in this, but I'm about to be set for the rest of my life. I was the youngest person in my department. I literally worked with they were almost retired. Like I was the only one. So I really felt like I made it, because I'm like, when these people retire or they decide that this is not, for them anymore or whatever, I'm next in line. Like I'm set. And so I sat there, and I remember I was the only person in the office at the time. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I really can't do this. And so I used to help some of my friends out with like their social media. And so I was logged into one of my friend's pages, and I'm like doing some stuff for him. And I see this like job come across the stories, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I have never turned down $1. I will literally make a way to, even though I had a great job, I didn't need any extra money, so to speak, but I'm like, I could do this stuff with my eyes closed. Like I can, take this on as like a part-time little side hustle or whatever. And so I saw it, and then I was like, well, I don't know. And I just kind of kept going back and forth with it. And then I started, I think a couple months went by actually, because I finally just like ignored it and said whatever. And then I saw it again. So then I recognized that like they must have never filled the position. So I was like, maybe I'll do, I think I responded this time to the story on my page, because it actually came up on my own page, and the person, they're like, oh, you would be perfect for this. And I'm like, oh, okay. Is this something I can do like at home? They're like, absolutely not. This is a full-time position in office. Like we need your full commitment. And I was like, oh, absolutely not. I'm not doing it, because for me, I had just landed like such a great position that I was pretty much on paper set. I was like, this does not make any sense. Why would I leave this for something that's not certain? And it was in the creative space. And I'm like, I've only toyed with the idea of the creative space in my mind. I've never actually like been a creative, so to speak.
Yeah.
And of course, this is totally different from, I'm not dancing, I'm not, singing or acting. I'm not doing any of the things that I thought I was going to be doing at a young age. So you're asking me to do something totally different, something that I just kind of do as a hobby and happen to be sort of good at, as a full-time position. Are there benefits? Like, what's going on? So for me, I literally was like, I don't think this is gonna work. But there was just something inside of me that was
something
like,
about it, yeah.
Man, yeah. I feel like maybe I should just try. I should just take the leap. I had actually had a health scare last year. Around this time last year, I was actually preparing to go into surgery. And I was down for the count for about 2.5 months. And so during that time is when the job was in play, which is so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was healing from the surgery, and something in me was just like, Morgan, you literally could have like lost your life in a sense, or you could be in a position where your health really changed the trajectory of what your life even looks like in general. So you need to take every risk, take every leap, take every like opportunity that comes your way, and just live life to your fullest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pretty much vowed to myself last year around, I guess, January, because that's when I got out of surgery. And they gave me all the stuff, all the reports and stuff like that. And I said, okay, I'm gonna live, and I'm gonna like take a leap and take a chance on me, and just pray that God like sees fit that I'm purposed, like our purpose and my purpose is lining up together. And so that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
I just decided that there was more to life, and I wasn't going to like play with it anymore.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because I think like when we first met, I didn't see the creative. Like I didn't think you were doing like anything creative. And then I think along the journey or the process of like us knowing each other, like through the church, I started to see you do a lot more creative things. And I was like, that's pretty interesting, because I didn't think, obviously I knew like you were a singer. I didn't know you were a dancer or like were like you did ballet before, but like I started to see like the shift of like who you were showing to be. And that seems like that was like a journey for you as well.
Oh, certainly. I think because it even got to the point where I used to say, oh, I'm not a creative. I actually used to say that.
Really?
Yeah, because
that's so crazy now.
I know. It is really insane. I used to say that all the time, because also for me, when I was growing up and being like in the arts, to me that was different than being a creative. To me, that was, I'm showing up, someone gave me a role, a script that's already been written for me, and I'm just tapping into whatever that looks like. You know what I mean? That's a different skill. That's a different, even dance, like you either have it or you don't, and you have to keep practicing those things. But I never really put the two together as like, oh, I'm a creative.
Yeah.
Not at all. So I didn't even show up in spaces that way, especially because once I had my child, that dream of mine was dead. So to me, it didn't even like occur to me to ever really show up in spaces as like this person who had a bunch of stuff inside of them and a bunch of like ideas and things like that. And so it would just kind of come out in like little drips of just my own life. Like people started noticing because of my Instagram, like, I love how you post. I'm like, this is just what I feel like saying or doing at the time. But it really wasn't on purpose. It just has always, I guess, been dormant. And so it's something that I'm also trying to continuously live out loud, because what's crazy about this entire thing is I've only been a full-time entrepreneur creative for a year. And to see how much success and like how far I've been able to grow in just a short amount of time. And it's only because I decided to live out loud in it. And it's only because I decided to like finally embrace it and just say like, oh yeah, like this is me, this is what I do. And I'm excited about it. And I'm like excited to try new things. I'm excited to, you also have to be excited to fail.
Most definitely.
Let's just be clear. And I know that like, it's like no such thing as a failure. It's only lessons. But And that is true, but you have to be excited to fail because you have to be excited to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am learning every day. I'm learning all day, every day. There's so much that is creativity also is like there's no limit to it. So it's ever changing, ever evolving, and it's all in how you see it, like perspective wise. So it's just something that I'm like, I'm ready to take it by storm and let it be and not like be quiet about it anymore, because how else are you supposed to get opportunities? How else are you supposed to figure out what you are capable of also?
That's a fact. That's a fact. I know for me, like majority of the ideas, the majority of the opportunities that have come to me came to me because I did the thing first.
Yeah.
And then they offered me because they saw like I was capable of doing what they're asking for.
Absolutely. And I think that there are so many people out there who have it, right? And they just don't necessarily know how to put it out there. And they almost are waiting for someone to just give them an opportunity. But what I have learned is that that's not it.
Nope.
Especially because the creative world in general is big.
It is.
It is a sea of people that are literally putting out things left and right. And it can be very intimidating at times because it's like a podcast. Like, I remember when I first thought about doing podcasts, I'm like, there are a million podcasts. What is going to make my podcast
different?
Different? But there is someone out there who is literally waiting on you or whatever you can bring or whatever resource you could bring, whatever person you could bring. It is something specific about what you have creatively that makes you different, like that makes you stick out, but you have to do it.
Yep.
Like that is one of the things I think that I've learned in this process the most is as a creative, as an entrepreneur, as someone who wants opportunity, you have to do the work. I'm going to say it again. You have to do the work. Creators can be kind of entitled.
They can. A little bit. They most definitely can.
A little bit. They can be a little entitled. I mean, I think we've all found ourselves there too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't recognize that you're living in this like entitled, like, oh, well, why didn't they invite me on the show? Or they don't know what you can do.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that that's something that I had to make up in my mind, that no one will ever, or as of now, going forward, no one will ever be able to say, oh, I didn't know Morgan did that. You're going to know.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to put it out at some point. I don't know when. And it's going to be, I'm never going to stop putting out things that pretty much is like a resume that you can read. You know what I mean? Not physically.
Yeah.
But I want my works to be my resume of what I'm capable of and what I'm able to do and what I'm able to bring to the table of any project or thing. And, everything is not for everyone, but at least I can say I did what I could and I put out my works to the world, and wherever it was supposed to land is like where it landed.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that you said is like being a creative. I don't think people realize that like some of the stuff that you do are for like other people.
Yeah.
Other people's in like enjoyment. So I went to go see like LeBron play for the first time ever. I always wanted to see him play. And that was the first time I actually realized that, right? Because obviously I've been a creative for like relatively all my life. And I've been full-time for like the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And I would always create work for like other people, but I don't think I fully understood the impact of that, because it's like I create something, I don't see how people are affected by that most of the time.
Certainly.
And so when I seen like LeBron actually play, and he's been doing it for like 20 plus years, I saw what his hard work and how that impacted other people in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yo, that's a fact. 'Cause if you don't, if God gives you like these gifts and you have to hone these gifts like over time, and if you don't do like what you need to do, then you're kind of like letting people down in a sense.
Yeah.
Because like your gifts, your talents are for other people.
Yeah.
And if you don't, outlive or do what your purpose is or like live out your mission, then there are people in the world who will be impacted by that either negatively or positively.
Yeah. I think it's all about stewardship. Stewardship has been one of my words, specifically in this season of my life, because I recognize that there is a certain level of importance of stewarding what's in my hands. And because I'm stewarding whatever is in my hands that God has given me, He's going to multiply it and He's going to bless it.
It's a fact.
But I have to steward it well. And I feel like sometimes we can miss that. You know what I'm saying? Like even stewarding our gifts well and making sure that we're using them appropriately so that someone else is blessed and so that someone else is impacted. It's so many times where I remember when I was in that season of like, oh, I'm going to be a like corporate girl and, and here's the thing, like it served its purpose, right? I was able to provide. I was able to even pick up skills that you need just business-wise, right? But there was still that like pull and that tug of you are missing an opportunity to impact someone in a greater way that you cannot do behind a desk. Yeah. You just can't. And the other interesting thing is that when God has a plan and a purpose, we are just like vessels, right? If we say no and we decide not to do it, He's absolutely going to find somebody else.
Yep.
Why would I want God to literally say, here you go, but, oh, you don't want it? Perfect. I'm just going to go and give this to someone else. And here's the thing. I know that we also, because we don't always know what God has up His sleeve, we don't even know what that entails, which is honestly the most beautiful part.
Yeah.
Because usually whatever my dream is, whatever our desire is, God has so much better for what we could even think or imagine. And so I'm like, can you imagine me pretty much handing my dreams to someone else and then it's bigger than what I imagined? How that is like, it makes you get up in the morning. It makes you say, all right, I don't care how bad of a day I'm having. I don't care how hard this is right now. I'm going to keep pressing forward because how dare I squander this away? How dare I also like not use my voice to help somebody else?
Yeah.
A lot of the things that I have gone through in my life, I absolutely 150% know that it was never for me. Never. There are certain things that have happened in my life that I didn't understand at the time. I was like, this doesn't even make sense. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Like motherhood, for example. I had 3 children. I am done. I'm 31 years old and I am done having my kids. I no longer can even have children anymore. If I wanted to, I can't.
Yeah.
That was one of the health scare that I mentioned earlier is I can't even have children anymore. So that in itself it didn't make sense to me at the time why I was like having these kids back to back, like, dang, like, oh man, like, of course, yes, there are certain decisions that we all make and, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. However, it was just the fact that I didn't understand how this was all happening at the rate that it was happening, how it went down the way it did, and to know that I have a certain level of experience that a lot of women my age don't have. A lot of women my age are actually either they don't have kids at all or they're just now starting.
Yeah.
I've been in the motherhood game for 11 years. Crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be able to speak to a lot of the things I can speak to now. And it's not about like how to, what I do and why I exist and what I finally understand about myself and my purpose is, it's really not about showing that mom or that woman like how to parent or how to, find an art project and do all these cute little hacks and all this stuff. It's really not about that.
Yeah.
It's about the fact that as a woman, there is a certain amount of responsibility that we have. There is a certain journey that we have to go through to as a mom, as a wife, as a partner, as a leader, whether that looks like just in your home or in the office, or if you're an entrepreneur. There are so many things as a woman that you go through, and then you add motherhood on top of it. It's like you have to be equipped in a different way that a lot of people aren't talking about. And so I recognize that the things that I went through, the trials, the tribulations, the moments where I wanted to give up, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
There's a woman right now that could be listening to this and they either are single and have no children at all and they're longing for, that marriage and the kids, but then they just maybe need to hear that, hey, where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. Stop. Pause. Take a moment. Don't rush. Someone needs to hear that. Then there's another mom. There's a mom out there who needs to hear, hey, girl, like I know you're taking care of the kids. I know you're taking care of your husband. I know that you have literally done all that you can do and you are depleted right now. Pause. There's someone who needs to hear that. There's someone who needs to like be able to get help in navigating what it looks like to be a woman who is not just a subtitle, but like all of the things and be able to live out loud. Like what is the epitome of being all things to all people and to yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you spitting now.
So I recognize that. Like I couldn't have done that being a ballerina or a actress. Sure, I think that I do believe that now that I'm where I am now, I can accomplish whatever I put my mind to.
Most definitely.
And the vehicle that I've created for myself, or really God has created for me, because I'm just here.
Yeah.
Will take me to still being able to accomplish some of those things, but there is a greater purpose that had to get done first before I do anything else. You're not gonna see me in nobody's leotard, but I believe that I can still accomplish certain things that I dreamt of as a little girl, but there was a greater assignment that I had to do prior to any of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a fact. Let's turn that down a little bit. Something you said a little earlier made me think about like my mother, right? You said, sometimes like before you actually came out as a creative or a creator, like you wouldn't walk into these spaces as that, right? Like, but you had all of this inside of you, but you didn't show that to the world.
Yeah.
And my mother knows exactly like what I do. And sometimes I would do something and she would say, just like your mom, like your mom. But I don't see that. Like I've never seen that. And I realized, with like most parents, like they had a life, a completely different life before they had like their children.
Yes.
And, in many ways that they kind of like leave that life behind once they have the children.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like there was a time that you were going to leave that behind, but now you're kind of like bringing that to the forefront now. And could you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. What actually, I love that you asked me that, because it's what brought Millennial Moms Club about. So after my third child, I ended up going through postpartum depression, and I didn't get that with my first or my second. I always heard about it, but I didn't really know a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I always used to hear like people saying like the baby blues, and it meant that you wanted to like harm your child and all of, it like the things that did come up about it. I wasn't really experiencing that much, but I was experiencing something that was beyond my understanding. Not only that, but the things that I did love, I didn't want any parts of. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't want to do it anymore. I lost myself completely. And so I will never forget, I was like up in the middle of the night for a feeding, and I was just crying, like literally like feeding my son, tears rolling down my eyes. And I was like, God, like, there, first of all, should not be any other woman that has to go through this and not understand what she's going through. There also should not be a woman out there who is going through it alone and feels like this is the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, what does that look like? Because then I started like Googling and trying to just find like, one, more information of what I was going through. Mm-hmm. Even gone to the doctor, and they're like, oh yeah, it looks like you're experiencing postpartum depression and blah, blah, blah. And this is what you can do for it. Like either talk to somebody or, get on medicine basically. And so while that was cool and all and whatever, it still didn't really help. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, there's gotta be a better way. Like, because even with the medicine, you pretty much really lose yourself because you become like a zombie. You become like someone, I really didn't know myself at all. I was like, okay, that's not working. But I was like, I have to find like, pretty much I need to tap into what I do love and what brings me joy so that I can get out of this like hump. I got to get out of this like hole that I'm in, if you will. And so I started like talking and started to, and I researched a lot before I started, because especially as women of color, Black women to be specific, we adopt a certain generation of how we deal with things, how we parent, mm-hmm. how like it's pretty much, girl, you're fine. You better like pick yourself up by your bootstraps and keep moving. And it's not to anyone's fault, but the fact that that's just what we had to do. Mm-hmm. And I said, nah, no more. And so I looked and I looked and I looked and I said, there's no one out here talking about it. There were a few bloggers that I found, but they were of the white ethnicity. And it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not the same. And so I could not find not one Black mom. Mm. Not one.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. And I love that I'm even able to share this, because I don't often be like, y'all, I was the first one to ever do it. But I really did. I researched and I said, I want to find joy again, but I want to also teach other women how to find joy again. Mm. And that's kind of like where it stemmed from, is I had to get myself out of a hole. And I knew that, or hoped, I didn't know, actually. I did not know. Yeah. But I hoped that me betting on myself and me trying to really listen to God. And because he gave, like, it literally came to me when I was in that moment, I said, this has to be from him. And that's when it, I started researching and everything like that. And so I hoped me betting on myself and me betting on the fact that I heard God clearly, that it was going to, one, bring me out of that very dark season, and two, really be able to be a light in a way that it was more than just about me.
Yeah.
And so it turned into something way bigger than what I imagined for it to be. Because I'm going to be honest, when you follow like what God is telling you to do, he never gives you the full plan.
Mm-mm.
Like, ever.
Nah.
And so I did it, and each week I was like, okay, God, well, I started the page, but like, now what?
What
like,
next? Yeah.
What am I supposed to talk about? And he just kept saying, just show up.
Yeah.
Like, talk about the things that you're experiencing as a woman, as a mom. And then it got to the point where I was battling with all of my responsibilities, like, because I was still very much so full-time corporate when I started this endeavor. And so I was like, I don't really have time, which that is like something that every mom says, every woman, but specifically mothers, like, they don't have time to follow their dream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't have time to pick up what they left behind once they became pregnant. They don't have time to even, they put it so far down that they even forget about it. There are so many women out there that I've asked, like, what did you love to do before you became a mom? They can't answer it. And that's insane. Yeah. I don't want that to be a thing anymore. So although I have named it the Millennial Moms Club, it's not about the age. It's a philosophy. It's the epitome of what does a millennial mom look like, and how do I aspire to be that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's more than the generation, because I've actually had people of my past generation say, if this existed when I was your age, man, I would have like been able to go after this, or I would have been able to balance this better. I would have been able to even talk with my children better, because a lot of times when we're parenting, we're going through so much internally that sometimes comes out on our kids, and we end up parenting them in a way that we would have never done if we just understood what was going on inside of us. Yeah. And so it starts with us. It starts inside. It starts with understanding what we're going through. And so that's kind of how I was able to finally say, like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I was kind of forced into entrepreneurship. I'm not gonna hold you. But it worked for my good. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, everything worked for my good, and it was because I gave the simple yes.
Yeah. Nah, that's just hearing like where that stemmed from to like where it's at now. It's just like, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful, because like typically men are like necessarily like the builders.
Yeah.
Like, men are the ones who like have the visions and like build something, right? Like, and so like when I saw that, I was like, oh, it was different.
Yeah.
Like, because I personally never seen anything like that. And like you said, like, you searched and looked for it and you couldn't find anything specifically from like the black perspective. And so when I saw you do it, I was like, oh, this is like super different. And that's when I started to see like you were a creator, a creative.
Yeah.
And I was just definitely seeing from afar like the journey of like how it was going, and then eventually leading into like other things. And how does it feel to, obviously you're a vessel, but like we're impacted by what people have told us about the things that we have created, right? How has that impact of others impacted you?
Ooh, so much, because I feel like I now have a responsibility to them. I have I can't give up. Like, it's one thing to say it's not about me, but it's another thing to live it. Like, it's really not about me. And so even when the long nights and the early mornings and sometimes not even having time to think straight, it's an honor and a privilege that I get to do these things. Like, I really get emotional when I think about how much my yes has impacted so many people, especially with social media, right? Because social media gives you a playing field like no other.
Yeah.
It gives you reach like no other. To have people in London, and I had someone, oh my gosh, maybe last week, someone from Rwanda, maybe, who DM'd me and was saying, I have never seen someone like you. She said, in my culture and in my, this is like, in my culture, I see a certain way a mom is supposed to be. And it deterred me from wanting to become a mother. But to see how you go about life in a way of you're doing things for you, but you're also an example to your children, and you're also encouraging other women. It is something that encourages me to want to be. And what? Yeah, it's mind-blowing. It's one of those things where I no longer can ever think that I'm doing this for me. I'm also recognizing that if I'm impacting women all over the world who are my age or even greater than my age, what does that look like to impact my daughters and their daughters and their daughters and their daughters? So it's like, now it's legacy. Now it's like really, really breaking a generational curse. Like, this isn't about me.
It's a fact.
It's not. And so it feels, it's something that it's hard to put into words, just because every single time I get a message like that, it never, ever comes at the wrong time either. Usually it's coming at a time where I'm so tired.
Yeah, when you need it.
Yeah, it's always coming at a time where I'm like, am I really
that's a fact,
doing this right? Because here's the thing. Creatives, we question ourselves so much.
Yeah.
We are our biggest, hardest critics.
Yeah.
We always are, down on ourselves and just hoping that people understand what we're trying to do or what we're trying to say with the work that we have put out. And so when I get those messages, especially from strangers, it's one thing to get it from your cousin and your sister.
No, that's a fact.
You know what I mean? Because you're like, you're supposed to say that. You're supposed to encourage me. But to get so many kind words from strangers,
especially in a whole different part of the world. That's crazy.
It does. From people I've never met, it just means the world. Yeah. Truly. Yeah. It's crazy.
Nah, it's great that you spoke about like the legacy standpoint, but also like the responsibility. Because I think like, especially like if you have an audience, I think there's a certain responsibility that you have like to those people. Yeah. And I don't think like a lot of people get that. It's like whatever you are telling these people, in many ways, you're kind of like leading them to that specific thing that you're speaking about. And if you are leading them in a wrong direction, then you're going to have to hold that weight. Like when it comes to like, when it's all said and done, like you're going to have to answer for that.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. So I have to tell this. So I went to a conference maybe a month ago, and they were talking about really just pursuing and giving your yes, and like and stop making like excuses on pretty much putting out what's on the inside of you, like what God has placed inside of you, why we are kind of like responsible to deliver it. And so they gave this example that, it really shook me. They were like, when you order a package from Amazon and you you click it and you hit purchase or whatever, you are literally expecting that package to arrive at your door in 2 days or, whatever. But typically everybody has Prime, so 2 days, right?
Yeah.
And you're excited about it. When that package gets to your door, do you really care what the box looks like? Nah, not really. You just want the package.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like
yeah.
you're excited about the package.
Yeah, you want the stuff that's in the package
you
for
want
sale. Yeah.
the stuff that's in the package. And so the speaker said, how dare you not deliver something to someone who is waiting and expecting it because of you're afraid of what the box looks like. That thing took me under because as creatives, we will make excuse after excuse after excuse on why we can't put something out.
Why we can't do it, yeah.
And why we can't do it. And there are so many people out there literally waiting for what's inside the box. I'm not saying put out anything, right? That's not what I'm saying. But the key is that we cannot hold up somebody's package because we're afraid of what the box looks like.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do it. You know what I'm saying? And so that responsibility piece is what reminds me of that. So every single time I'm like, maybe I should hold off on this or, maybe I'm not ready yet or, no.
Yeah.
It's like time out for that. You know what I'm saying? And we're in a new year.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the excuses that we had last year, all the well, maybe I'm going to do it this way or that way, or all that is over.
Mm-hmm.
It's game time.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? So that kind of like what you said, when you saw LeBron, you're like, yo, the responsibility he has not only to his team, but to his fans, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's a different, you see it.
Yeah, you see it. Yeah. It's tangible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, you're definitely speaking to the choir when it comes to the package concept and how whatever's in the package is supposed to be delivered to somebody specific.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a project that I've had this idea for, but I was in many ways being a perfectionist when it came to the personal project, because it really with this project, I'm not really in front because I'm only asking questions to a person, and usually the video is on the guest.
Yeah.
But this particular project, I'm in it 100%.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't do this. I have to wait until I do this, do this, and do this. And so the message that you just said, it's I'm the choir right now. You're preaching to me because I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. But then I read this book of just not being afraid to fail, not being afraid to just really implement your ideas as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Because it is for someone.
Yeah.
And I'm almost done so it's going to be a series, and I'm almost completed the first episode, and I'm going to show it to you after this.
Yeah.
But when I started to when I made the decision to actually do it and work on it, film it, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, this is powerful. It's really good. And because of everything that I've learned in my life and everything I've experienced, I'm kind of putting into it that I can see how it's going to impact people that I would never meet. Yeah. People who potentially will DM me. But I had to relinquish that idea of perfectionism and, me wanting it to look a particular way.
You know what? I think it's also the idea as creatives, we think we own our gift. We don't. It's not ours. It was given to us, but we don't own it, right? And so how dare we pretend that we do?
Yeah.
How dare we try to take a level of control? Because that's when things start going wrong. When we start putting things really in our own hands and trying to control it so much that we forget who gave it to us. Yeah. I think that that's when it starts to become something that will either be taken away or it's just sheer disobedience. You know what I mean? Like, and to your point, like, at some point we're going to have to answer for that.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you do X, Y, and Z? Why didn't you release X, Y, and Z? Because this was supposed to free this person.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone's blood on my hands. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
And I love talking about purpose. Because it's something that we as a people, especially this age that we're at, this is really when we are like fully trying to like figure it out, you know, and deciding if we're even walking in the right, you know, pathway or whatever. And if we're not, like, we're trying to shift and pivot because we're like, oh crap, you know, it's time. Like, we're not in our 20s anymore. Like, it's time.
Nah.
So I love talking about it because we are, as a creative, it seems like we're way more hard on ourselves, and we are way more likely to talk ourselves out of our purpose, and to also have people literally say, because I've been doing this thing where I've just been trying to like give people encouragement, you know what I mean? And give people like, hey, I've been there.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I failed at this. And because that's one thing, like when you are starting to become successful, people don't see the process of this success. So they assume that where they are now is like not a thing for the person who is successful. And to hear when somebody says, gosh, if I didn't read this just now, I would have like thrown everything away. I would have ripped up the idea and thrown it away, but this made me keep going. It's like, why would you not? You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I really want people to take. If you don't hear any of the rambling that I've said, that your gift is like, it's inside of you for a reason, but it's literally not for you. It's for masses of people.
Yeah.
And sometimes specific projects and works that you do is just for one. And that one that is for is probably going to change the world.
It's going to have an effect on somebody else, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a domino effect. And so we cannot be silent. We can't take it for granted that we've been given such a gift. Because we could be doing anything.
Yeah.
Everybody's also not graced to do what we do. So we have to like honor that.
You know what you said, like the project that like I spoke about like a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
It's really speaking to, but it's also showing like my process. And it's showing my process of like, basically like my workflow of like how I do things. And like, it also shows like where I came from.
Yeah.
Because people always, you know, people have asked me in the past, like, how did I get to like where I got to?
You're very mysterious.
But that's the thing, like I with this thing, I want to stay mysterious.
Yeah.
Like it's just like back and forth. Like I want to stay mysterious, but I also want to be able to like leave this legacy. Like, because this is the first time in history that like Black people have been able to like record themselves in this manner. And so like we don't necessarily have the reference of like our parents, their like grandparents and stuff like that, right? So like we don't have that. And so this is like really the first generation that has been able to document our lives, but also specifically speaking about like Black creatives, we don't have any of that, right?
We don't have a reference.
We don't have a reference, right? So like with me being 30 now, like, you know, us in our 30s, like we're still so young that like to be able to show our process as we like get older for not only like our kids, our families, but like for the generations that come like after us. And they will have that reference point of like, also when he was in his 30s, he was like doing this. This was like his thought process. I can see like how he felt in those moments. I could see like what he was creating. And so for like their lives, they have that reference so they can then live out.
I love that.
Like what they have. And so like that was like the thing. Like it's like I want to leave this, but I also want to be able to like be Mystique at the same time. But it's like also like, so I looked it up. It's been hundreds of billions, trillions of like humans that existed before us,
right,
that have like ever lived. And some of them we know, some of them we don't know. And so it's like, yo, like I don't want to be like forgotten, right? Right? And so I like, that's why I really want to create this. That's why I really started creating this, but like also have an effect. But I still go to the other side of like, yo, I just want to be like Mystique and just like live out my life and like that's just it. But like I understand that if I don't do it, then obviously we know God will find somebody else to do it.
Right. But it's like, why would you pass that up
It's
when
a
you
fact.
could do it so well? You know what I mean? Because the thing is, when he gives us a gift, he like literally equips us with everything we need to make sure that it's done and done in excellence. It's only us.
It's a fact.
It's only us.
It's a fact.
I never thought of that. The fact that like there really isn't a huge reference point, like the fact that we can document ourselves in such a way.
First time in history for Black people specifically.
Man.
Yeah. It's a
What a time.
It's a responsibility to be born during this time.
Yeah.
Like it's a fact.
Man.
Yeah.
That's so crazy because I was just watching a documentary and most of the footage they had was like from their iPhone or whatever. And I have been saying, and I have a friend who's been like, you need to like do more like video diaries of yourself and, you know, like document this process, right? Yeah. And I literally just said, 2 days ago, I was like, I'm going to start this process. I get like cringy a little bit when I'm doing it because I feel kind of silly. Like I'm like, who am I talking to?
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, what am I sharing? I get in my head about it. But to have it put in that perspective is even more like, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah, especially not only for like the people who are watching you, but specifically like your children as well.
Yeah.
It's because
like I want them to be able to say like, this was your grandma.
Exactly.
Who did this and like, look at this video and you know, wow.
Exactly. But also like how much stuff do you actually remember as a kid?
Yeah.
Right. Like you vividly remember it because like you're in your 30s and like you see like your children growing up. But like I don't remember like my mother and my father like when they were like in their 30s. I don't remember them like when they were in their 20s, like just like small things here and there. But to be able to see that.
That's so
to
true.
be able to go back on that, like...
Yeah, because as a kid, I only, like, really remember things from my perspective.
Exactly.
But I have no idea what my parents were really
like
doing
who they
or
were.
Going
exactly.
through. You know what I mean? Like, glimpses, yes.
Exactly.
But no idea.
Yeah. So, like, this is... I implore you to, like, to really do that and, you know, to have, like, this archive for not only... whoever you want to impact or God deems you to impact, but also your children, like the generation like afterwards, like, because we can really get to a place now that like we can really go back in history from like, you know, decades like behind us that our children can look back and be like, yo, this is like your great-great-grandmother. Yeah. This is like what they were doing then. And it'll change the whole process of like, who were they really like?
Yeah. And just seeing the inner pieces. Yeah. Because it's one thing to see your work that you've done and that you've left behind. But it's another thing, like you said, to see the process and to see what you were going through at the time. Because let me tell you something. Whenever, as like this past year has been the most defining year of my entire life. I would say. Yeah. Like, I've been through a lot of things. But this year specifically taught me so much about myself and my willpower. And like the fact that even though I'm working on so many things, life is still happening. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want people just to read about it or to get like the Cliff Notes version
Yeah,
or the
highlights.
telephone version.
Yeah.
Like, I want people to see that this is what I was really doing or going through or fighting against, because I will say that there is a certain attack on creatives spiritually, because we have such a purpose and a message to get out, to save and implore other people, that other things will try to like distract us to try to like to get it out. And people need to know that it's not all like rainbows and butterflies and things like that, especially with our world of social media, and you always seeing the highlight reel of people's lives, to be able to look back and say, yo, like, this is what she was doing.
Yep.
She was like
exactly
battling this while putting this project out.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yep.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sold.
Yeah, definitely do that. So like the first time I saw like Mom Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it was yours.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was I thought it was like some network
Yeah.
that like decided to go digital on
Mm-hmm.
like an online, to have like an online presence, because the production value was just like so crazy, so immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
And I did see like Josh was like a part of it.
Yes.
So I was like, yo, like that's like a great look.
Yeah.
And so like, what was the culmination of that?
Mom's Actually is literally me seeing God's hand in like real time. It is unbelievable. It's actually also me seeing what a yes will do. So March 8th, 2022, March 8th, 2022, guys. I met someone, we were at a conference together, a women's conference. This same conference, I was actually getting ready to dissolve Millennial Moms Club, because I was like, I don't think that I'm doing it right. I don't think that I'm making an impact. I just literally like, I was in my head and I wasn't seeing the fruits of anything, because, you know, it just happens when you're on that journey. Like, you go through bouts. And I kept saying, like, God, if I'm supposed to do this, this is the time. And I think that's a really quick caveat is, don't be afraid to pull on God's like word and be like, hey, you gave me this. Now show up. Like, if I'm supposed to do this, make it very clear. Because when you're in the journey of like giving your yes, it's always not going to be a very smooth ride. And I literally was like, yeah, like this is kind of going well, but like not to where I think it's supposed to go. And I haven't really heard much of like what the next step is. And every time I do take a step, it just doesn't seem like it's going well, right? Mm-hmm. Anywho, met the person, and she had just so happened to also be like, I have a pull on me to restart my mom thing that I was doing. So in the past, she had a like mom's YouTube page, and it was with a couple of her friends, and like it was sort of what we're doing now, but like at a different scale. And so we had pretty much like had this conversation. We pretty much like told each other, and we were complete strangers, told each other like our dreams and what we wanted when it came to pretty much being the voice for mothers and women of this day and age. And we ran with it. And when I say we ran with it, we ran. And literally like every time we would come up with an idea or really just give our full yes, it was like God blessed it. He would give us the right people. He would send us to the right places. All of the guests that we had on season 1, they were excited to do it. We didn't like pay anybody to be up there. You know what I mean? Like it was solely like relationships, and people were excited. Like they were like, I think the world needs this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy. It's even crazier because my daughter, my oldest, she'll remind me often. She literally just did this yesterday, actually. She was like, Mom, do you remember when you used to set up your camera in your bathroom every Monday and just go live and talk to your Millennial Moms audience? And now look at where you are now.
Look at you.
And so even for my daughter to like see that, it means so much because she could see what my little yeses every Monday at 8 p.m. were doing and sowing for the now that I'm harvesting. But we literally like gave a yes, and it blew up. And thankfully, she had the backing to really like, and the relationships also on her end to make production as beautiful as it is. Literally all relationships though have come into play, which that's a key too.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've learned that's very important when you're in the creative space and industry is relationships matter. And also, like, I know as creatives, we want to be paid for everything, and we want to, like, be, you know, we value our work, right? And we want other people to value it. But I also I see a value in doing certain things because of, like, networking and just, like, putting seed in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it has come full circle. Like, there's so many things I've done for free, and it has come back in a way of what I'm doing now, because somebody else has done that for me. You know what I mean? Like, to my point, as far as like guests and things like that, and to just make it bigger and to just see the impact and the growth. March 8th, 2022, it didn't exist. And now to see the places that we have been like featured in, like, I was in Essence.
That's crazy.
Ebony Magazine. I could list it. The list is kind of getting long at this point. And that's like, but that's only to God. Like, to God be the glory. It's not me. I'm grateful that I had the strength to give my yes again.
Yeah.
And to finally say, all right, God, I'm going to give you one more try. And, you know, and that is when in entrepreneurship, you have to keep giving him a try.
Yeah.
You have to keep pulling on him, because it's not going to be easy every single time.
Mm-mm.
You're going to have moments where you're going to be like, I want to give up completely.
It's a fact.
But God, it has been a journey to see what he has done in just a short amount of time allows me to know that this time next year, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, I literally don't even know.
Something you can't even think of.
I can't.
Mm-mm.
I can't fathom it. And I think that that's a good thing, because it keeps me humble.
Yeah.
It keeps me at God's feet. It makes me want to seek him more, because I want to always make sure that I am doing the right thing, walking through the right doors, and ultimately just living out what he has called me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's just not about me.
Yeah.
You know?
So what do you see for the brands, for yourself?
Ooh.
In the next couple years? Obviously.
A lot. Actually recently, I had to even reevaluate, what does Millennial Moms Club look like, right? Because when you have so much going on, you can only do but so much, right? And so for a second, I had kind of like rethought rebranding, and I still am. But it's just about to look
way different.
Really different. Like, I'm very excited to do a new rollout, if you will, of what Millennial Moms Club is going to look like, because it's more than just content. It's more than just, people having a space to go and to say, me too. It's now something that I want people to have tangibly. And so I can't wait. As far as Moms Actually, I think that we are going to continue to really just like go forth, see where things take us. I think that our prayer is to be able to start doing some live shows. So we could see ourselves. I do see us on tour soon.
It's fire.
Yeah. So it's just, I am so excited for what God is going to do in all of the aspects. And then just personally, I started this show with talking about the multi-hyphenate that I am, and I want to be able to, as a personal brand, lean into the things that I have kind of like worked on as far as my muscle, my producer muscle and directing muscle. I want to be able to put that into play for other people and projects. So I'm really excited for what that is going to look like in the next few years, of being able to just have my name on other things that have nothing to do with motherhood, that have nothing to do with, what I'm doing personally in my brands, but to be able to put my creative in other people's worlds as well. So, yeah.
So what would you say to the mom, the mom who has a vision and is too afraid to go after it, or just, the creative, who doesn't know where to begin?
Yeah.
What would you say to that individual that's just trying to, find their way?
So much, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. What has been placed inside of you was not placed inside of you to die with you. There are so many ideas that are like literally in the grave, because someone decided not to take a chance on themselves, not to believe in themselves enough to actually put it into practice and to put it into action. And so the first step is to just believe. Truly, to believe in yourself and to know that what's like burning inside of you, and like you can't sleep at night, and what keeps waking you up, or even just what like somehow, some way this thing keeps coming up. Do it. Just do it. Even if it's not perfect, you have to start somewhere. And so being okay with it not being perfect, being okay with it not making a lot of sense, being okay with it not doing well. That's also a key. Being okay with it not panning out exactly the way that you thought it would is a big key. Because 1, you're going to learn a lesson from it. 2, just because it didn't reach 500, 5,000, 5 million, it could have been perfect for the 5. And then for the mom who is feeling overwhelmed, honor the season that you're in. I know that we're all guilty of saying like, take the leap and do it. And, like all of these things, but sometimes what your purpose is honoring what is right in front of you. You might have a newborn and you cannot see how in the world you're supposed to write a book. You can't see how in the world you're supposed to start the thing, right? But maybe it's not that you're starting it right now. Maybe it's you're just taking those moments where you're feeding and when you're up in the middle of the night to ideate what it looks like to start the thing. So that when it's time to start the thing, you're ready, you're locked, you're loaded. And if you have to make little adjustments for the time period that you're finally starting it, fine. But at least you've started. You haven't given up. You're keeping the fire going on that thing, and it's no longer something that that's just dying slowly, but you're always working on it. So I would say to that person, keep going. Keep pressing forward. Every little thing that you do towards your dream, it matters. Every little time you pick up the pen and put it to paper and outline your goals and outline what it looks like to put the plan in motion, it matters. Every time you click on that camera and you decide to take the picture or you decide to record yourself, it matters because you're literally saying, God, I trust what you have given me in my hands. God, I trust that what you have given me is going to be more and it's going to multiply. So keep going, do the thing, and honor where you are. That's what I've got.
Now you were spitting right there. Like, I just wanted to make sure like we had it before like I actually said something. That was, I think, just this whole, I learned a lot about like just like your life and just being a wife or mom and visionary when it came to like the things that like God has given you. I learned so much during this time, and I can imagine like how many other people will learn and take something away from it. Yeah, and especially that last gem that you dropped was it's incredible. It's going to do so many great things for so many people.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I really constantly want people to know, especially women, it's very easy to hide behind a title. A title being wife, being mom, being, whatever our job description is, but specifically being wife and mom. I mean, I didn't even touch on the fact that I am a pastor's wife, which is an entire thing in itself, because there is a level of responsibility that you have to your household, to your husband. And not only that, but it's very easy to shrink. Mm-hmm. You kind of like touched on it early of, you usually see like men like building a certain thing. Mm-hmm. And I really, when I became a pastor's wife, one, that was never in my plan. And what I vowed to myself is that I would never lose me. I would never lose me as a person and conform to what the world and what society says that I'm supposed to be. And in that same breath, same thing as a mom. Society says that we're supposed to be a certain thing, that we're supposed to look a certain way, that we're supposed to act a certain way. And I said, no, like, nah, I'm not doing it. And I want women to be empowered to not feel like they have to shrink, period. Like, you are that girl, and you can continue to be that girl with everything that you have on your plate. Like, that title does not mean that you diminish yourself, because you were born to do more. Yeah. Like, period. The other things are just the cherry on top. Mm-hmm. You were born to do more.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Well, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you again. Like I said earlier, this was great. Like I learned so much. I imagine people who are watching it, the people who are listening to it will take so much away from it. And I can imagine what it has done for you.
Oh my gosh. I'm like pinching myself right now because I've never ever sat down and first of all talked about myself for this long. And second, I've never really had a space or opportunity to share. I think there are so many times where I give like little pieces of my story that I kind of just like drop in random like captions on my page or something like that. But I really don't give everything at one time, you know? And there's still so much more, but this was a great start to be able to share with the world, like, you know, more about me, you know? So that I really appreciate you for having me on.
Hey, likewise.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Antonio Knoxx. That is Morgan Taylor. And this was The Gradient Radio.